This weekend, season 2 of The Punisher drops on Netflix, so today I'm gonna stop and rank all 3 live-action Punisher movies from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Chandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate, you're probably in the right place, and consider clicking that subscribe button. With that in mind, go ahead and share your ranking down below in the comments section. Do you love all of them? Do you hate all of them? Do you just consider the TV show better than all the movies? I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Go ahead and tell me down below in the comments section. As I go into my thoughts on the movies, I'm not ranking them based off how accurate they are to the comics. I might mention a little bit of that, but ultimately I'm just scoring them as movies in general on their own terms. Before I give you my own ranking, also, I put up a poll asking you guys which one you thought was the best. With 6% was the Dolph Lundgren film, with 12% was Punisher Warzone, and with 82% was The Punisher with Thomas Jane. That actually was a little bit surprising to me. I wasn't expecting Thomas Jane to just absolutely dominate both of the other films. Also, here's what the Rotten Tomatoes scores look like. With the Lundgren film only has 28%, but both The Punisher and Punisher Warzone have 29%, which seems a little bit statistically unlikely that all 3 of these movies would be so close when it comes to the Rotten Tomatoes scores. With all that said, here's my ranking. Coming in last place is The Punisher 1989. This movie is basically a mix of comic book movie and action movie. But being that the comic book that this movie is based off of is basically just an 80s action movie once you file away the comic booky stuff, and this movie files away all the comic booky stuff, it overlaps into essentially just a very generic 80s action movie. Physically speaking, Lundgren fits the role of the Punisher as he's a physically imposing guy and he knows martial arts. However, he was also very clearly a young actor still honing his craft. The acting here is not very good, and when that's the lead of your movie, that's kind of a problem. But that's not really the biggest problem here. The story overall has some odd beats inside of it with the way all the elements fit together, as if they had to restructure the story in the editing room. Likewise, the action sequences do a lot of quick cuts inside of them, like someone will hold a knife and it'll cut to the knife being stabbed into someone very up close. So very cheap stunt work and the poor man's way of doing action sequences. Likewise, it looks like they drew the stubble onto Lundgren's face, which is an odd choice to say the least, but you do get to see Lundgren's naked butt in the movie, so if you want to see that, woo! It exists inside of this film. If you like 80s B action movies, it's very watchable. This is a movie I can put on late at night and have fun with it, but if that's not your genre, there's no reason to watch this movie. Our runner-up is Punisher Warzone. I actually think the basic setup of this film of Frank Castle accidentally killing an undercover cop and feeling the weight and the consequences of his war against crime is a great setup for a Punisher movie. Unfortunately, the movie overall, I think, is very uneven in the tone. The grounded and human emotions of the central storyline just don't mix with the blatantly exploitive handling of the ultra-violence. And Jigsaw himself is just unbelievably campy at times.
And at the end of it, the Punisher will be dead!
So you've kind of got 3 movies. You've got serious Punisher movie, you've got ultra-violent movie, and you've got campy movie. Now, I wasn't crazy about any of the campy stuff, but serious, totally fine with. Ultra-violence, very okay with it. The mix together, not so much. Also, the movie is kind of short on action. The intro is a big, long action sequence. The end is a big, long action sequence, but there's not a lot of action in the hour in the middle. So overall, a movie that has great moments, great elements, the great setup for a great Punisher movie, but not fully realizing the potential. But in first place is The Punisher 2004. I think this is a very solid B movie. Director Jonathan Hensleigh said that he was trying to make a throwback action movie like Sam Peckinpah's films, or like a lot of the westerns from the 60s and the 70s. And if you watch this movie in light of that context, I think it makes a lot more sense. He's not trying to make a modern action blockbuster. While the main storyline is a re-envisioning of the Punisher origin story, there's some real nice nods to the Welcome Back Frank graphic novel, whether you're talking about The Neighbors or, of course, The Fight with the Russian. Because Thomas Jane gets to play out the full origin story, I think he comes off more human to me because we get to see him as the husband and the father, and then we see him in the grief phase, and then we see him in the punishing phase. He's a more well-rounded character to me than some of the other portrayals. Now, I would have preferred it if there was a little bit more straight-up action in the film, but overall, when I want to watch a Punisher movie, this is the one that I go to. It is the one that I've watched the most, so it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out that video right over there where I ranked the Blade movies. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.